to build an artist outside of the creative first, because it starts with who you are as a person.
Yeah.
People they skip over that part. That's why mental illness is kind of like in the music industry really huge, because they ignore the person.
Yeah. Okay, so boom. So we got, I mean, I don't want to say 12 years of songwriting because you're still songwriting to this day. Let's just go to this point. At what point did you transition to say, okay, now it's time to run my own business?
Okay.
And start signing these artists?
So that's when, so towards the end of the 12 years, and Charles and I were not seeing eye to eye on how to get to the next level.
Yeah.
And so I made a real deep decision to like just separate myself and start Songbook. Well, Trey Songz was in the middle of us because he was supposed to be our artist.
Okay.
I met Trey because Trey's stepdad and Charles went to high school together.
Okay.
So his stepdad asked him to listen to his son. And so me being the music guy, Charles sent him to me to tell him about, what I thought about his son.
Right.
Pretty much. And so that's how I met Trey. Well, Trey got caught in the middle of this separation because Trey, the agreement was that Charles made to Trey was, if you do 60 songs, after you do 60 songs, we'll start shopping you a deal. So me leaving, I didn't want to interrupt that deal, but I would still work with Trey. But I'm not going into the office. I had an office on 23rd and Broadway. And so me leaving the characters, I stayed home, which was in Teaneck. So Trey would continue on going in to do that, but then he would come back and work with me.
Yeah.
Until he did 60 some odd songs. Now, I say this because they weren't all like good, and they weren't all like, you know what I mean?
They weren't all spectacular.
Not at all.
Sure
and some of them were started and not finished and whatever. But because I was the music guy when I left, there wasn't anybody there to guide him.
Right.
So he felt like, shoot, I did 60 something songs. So now I don't have to keep going in. I could just stay here. Until Charles felt like, yo, where's Trey? And how come he's not coming in? And he felt like, he was kind of like being disrespectful and kind of kicked him out.
Got you.
And Trey laughed.
And so at that point, once that relationship kind of severed between him and Trey, and then that's when and
then that's when I realized I could do this myself.
Yeah.
Because I respect the positions. And that's another thing. When you do have your team, you respect each other's position. And I respected Charles' position. He respected my position. And since he was the business side,
right,
it didn't occur to me that everybody he knew, I knew.
Right. You had built the relationships.
Yeah. So it was like, because I was so used to staying in the studio and having him do that.
Out.
What was starting to happen was that was the time where the producer, the creative was starting to get the attention. That was manager time. That was Suge Knight and Russell Simmons-y time, where the managers was
the guy.
The focus. Now it was starting to come to the producers.
Yeah.
And so I started realizing I know everybody that he knows. And so I agreed to take Trey on and get his demo, and that's it.
So did you have I know you worked with artists from their beginning, infancy stage, so you had that sort of experience of what it took to break an artist, but what was different now that it was your label?
It wasn't anything different because I'm still an artist developer. And that craft is gone. Yeah. They don't do that no more. But I knew how to build an artist outside of the creative first, because it starts with who you are as a person. Yeah. People they skip over that part. That's why mental illness is kind of like in the music industry really huge, because they ignore the person.
Who the person is. Yeah.
The human part. And when you ignore and suppress that, and you try to keep going for your goal and forgetting that you get anxiety when you talk in front of people, or you don't like certain things and you forgot. So then when you become what you think you wanted to become, and it's time to do those things that you looked over, then all of a sudden you
start to get that anxious feeling you're talking about.
So I always tapped into the person. Trey and I, we bowled, we did play pool, we go see movies, and just he was young, you know what I mean? So just building him from as a young man, and I would always ask him, "You sure you want to do this?
It's gonna be tough."
Yeah, it's gonna be tough. So, but he listened to everything. He stuck with it. He did everything I told him to do, and
it worked out. Mm-hmm. Okay, so how did y'all end up picking Atlantic?
So Delonte Murphy was my manager at that time. And so to keep it close, I suggested Delonte to be Trey's manager at the same time. So it was three of us. And then Delonte had Bobby Fish. Bob Fish worked with Delonte's, on the management side. When I broke away from Charles, the word started getting out that the characters broke up. Which was a big deal.
Yeah.
And so Delonte got wind of it, and I knew Delonte in passing and met with him a couple of times. He called me and wanted to have a meeting, and he, just quite frankly offered to manage me, which was weird for me because I always had Charles.
Right.
And so, long story short of that, I just told him, listen, whatever you get me that I don't know of, you get 20%. But if you get me something that I already had a relationship with, you get 15.
Right.
That way that would push him to
go out there and make new relationships.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So when I made Trey's demo, I gave it to Delonte for him to show me what he can do.
Right.
And so he sent it to everybody. RCA, DreamWorks, he sent it, Def Jam. We sent it out to everywhere.
Yeah.
Dwindling it all down, it came down to DreamWorks and Atlantic. So DreamWorks, Brian Postel. Brian sent us out. He really, really liked Trey.
Yeah.
He flew us out. We had this big thing, soul food and gifts and all this stuff. And they really, really wanted us. And who was the late? It was a father's son, Mike. I forget their name. Mike. Anyway, they were head of DreamWorks, the label side. And so we met with them. And Trey was really excited. And then we got a deal offer from Atlantic. And so it was Mike Karen who Delonte sent it to. Mike Karen's boss, Craig Kalman, I knew for years. But Mike was new to me. So Delonte and we felt like, the deal of Atlantic is great. The money of DreamWorks is great.
Better.
Deal?
But you gotta,
money.
Right.
They were offering us a lot of money at DreamWorks.
But the deal structure
was at Atlantic.
And it makes me very happy to hear this because y'all went with the deal structure.
Yes.
And most people make that mistake.
No. Trey wanted to go
with the money.
He wanted to go with Brian Postel. He wanted to go with the money. And then honestly, three of us, we decided to pray about it. We decided to pray about it and fast on it.
Yeah.
Because me and Delonte were convinced. But Trey's the artist. So it was like, it's his ultimate decision.
Right.
And here's the funny part. Upon doing that, I remember being in LA one time and I was walking down Sunset. I was going to or coming from Tower Records. I got a phone call on my cell. And it was like, yo, did you hear? I was like, hear what? Yo, DreamWorks shut down. They closed their label.
Wow.
So, what's his name? Steven Spielberg had closed the record
side of it.
And it was like, whoa, no, seriously? Like, yeah, nah. There's no more label, record label.
I really was wondering that because I'm like, I don't remember DreamWorks as a label.
Oh no, they was big.
Yeah.
It was big. They was big. And guess who worked there?
Who was that?
Later on in years.
Who?
Timmy Regisford.
Wow. Wow.
But I'm not getting to that part because that was later on.
Yeah.
But in this stage of it, no, actually earlier on it was Timmy. Timmy had moved over there, and so we kind of continued our relationship with that. But then by this point of Trey, Timmy was gone. But I was just saying, Timmy actually, I forgot about that. He actually worked at DreamWorks, but. We thought about it, like if we'd have signed with DreamWorks, we'd have been stuck.
We've been out, yeah. Because we've seen that happen to artists, especially when Jive, right? When Jive closed
down,
yeah.
And so it was like, well, what's Brian Postel doing? Like they fired the whole staff, so we would have gotten stuck. So it all came down to Atlantic.
But still with the deal structure, if you don't mind me asking, especially in this platform, what was better about that deal structure? Like what points or terms that said, okay, I like this better?
Actually, we got everything we asked for. Okay. We weren't really focused on the money. Mm-hmm. We were focusing on the term, how many albums. Yeah. So we got 6 albums. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Record companies be 10 albums. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We got
back
6
then for
albums, sure. And some of the deal points that I can't remember now, but that our attorney went hard on, and Atlantic agreed, which they don't normally do on certain things. So it was a pretty fair deal.
Now let me ask you this, because I don't want to skip over your greatness, because I'm pretty sure they gave you those terms because you are who you are.
Well, Craig Kalman and I, we had a relationship for years. Like I said, Mike didn't know me, but when it came time for everything to come together and Craig found out it was with me, then kind of like...
Yeah, that greased the wheels.
Yeah, it's like, I didn't know that was your artist. Oh my gosh. So what we were asking for wasn't like crazy. It was just fair.
It was fair. Yeah. All right, so real quick, going back at them 12 years, because again, I know because of you at that point, it made it happen. Give us some of those 12-year highlights. Like, give us some of those. I know we mentioned Sweet Lady. Like, give us some of those highlights.
Man, the highlights was me just really becoming a producer, writer for other people. Take 6. I ended up working with Take 6. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, it didn't come out.
But you worked with them.
But I worked with them. Yeah. Let me think. Something else. There's so many different things that I got in the first 12 years. Yeah. I learned so much, and Charles and I, we had a great run. Like, I think there was the characters. There was Ellie and Face. There was Jam and Lewis. Yeah. And that was kind of our like big goal. The one thing that Jam and Lewis and LA and Face had that we didn't have was Clarence Avant. Yeah. We never met Clarence, the Godfather, the Black Godfather. We never met him. Yeah. That would have been great because what he did for Jam and Lewis, he ended up doing for LA and Face. So we needed someone to come in and...
I'm honestly hoping to like play that role. Like I watched that and I'm like, man, like that's what I want to be. Man, that's the role I like to play. And so like a lot of the artists, whether I end up even working with them or not, I stay very close to them and make sure whatever they need, I make sure they get it. Yeah. And so I'm very much trying to play that role for this generation. That's what's up. Okay. All right. So after the Trey deal, right? You have your first successful artist under Songbook.
Yes.
What's going through your mind at that point? Like how you feeling at that point?
I'm feeling like, wow, this is crazy. Like I don't even think I imagined all of that. All of that came as it was happening. Yeah. That wasn't a goal of mine. Right. You know what I mean? I didn't see that happening. But just, starting off with Trey, and it's so funny because, Trey's artist, that he loved, R&B wise, was always R. Kelly. Yeah. So we got the whole, he sounds like a broke down R. Kelly. He sounds like a R. Kelly wannabe.
Everybody says that normally with new artists. Yes. They're going to sound like somebody when they first come out. Yeah.
And so Trey embraced it because, he liked R. Kelly's music. So, but as time went on, slowly but surely, Trey developed his sound. Yeah. And became Trey Songz. So just watching that whole progression and just seeing something from 15 years old to, let's see, all the way up to the first album, second album, and then the third album's when he broke. Yeah. So it was like just to see that whole transition happening and a star being created was interesting.
When you just said that made me think, like you said, it took 3 albums for him to break. Even being on Atlantic from day one, right? And most people, they don't know that. No. They don't know that even if you sign to a major, it still takes time.
It takes time.
You know what I mean? You can't beat time.
You don't want it to happen quick though.
Yeah. You want it to be a building process because then you're building on that solid foundation. Yep. You know what I mean?
That keeps you going forever. Yeah. So in the beginning, Mike Caren wanted to prove that, he knew R&B. Yeah. Or he could do R&B, but he couldn't do it better than me. Yeah. So he fought us on the building of Trey's music and sound because he had something to prove. Right. But I'm like Craig, stop him. I can do this. Like, I don't need him telling me how to make records or what record to choose. And so the first album came out 2 years after it was done. Mm. And so the songs kind of skewed a little dated, and it seemed like Trey was more mature than he really was.
He was, yeah.
And then the second album, Def Jam came over. So Kevin Liles, Julie Greenwald, Mike Kaiser, they were at Def Jam. They came over to Atlantic. Yeah. So now we're under Mike Caren is still there, but we're under a whole new regime. Yeah. Craig is still there, but Julie and Kaiser and all of them, they were kind of like, and Kevin Liles, they were kind of like leading the way.
Right.
So we had to build a new relationship with them. And that resulted us using Nokio from Drew Hill as an A&R.
Okay.
Because he was Kevin's boy.
Okay, got you.
So we used him, and then we built a relationship with Nokio. So that would be that second album that got Can't Help But Wait, Wonder Woman, Last Time.
There was some songs though.
Yeah, but it was still the politics of it that we were still
fighting against.
That we were fighting against. But it wouldn't be until Ready. That he would become.
Yeah, still probably a top 3 R&B album all time. I don't want everybody to fight me, so I'm not gonna say number 1. But,
no, you don't have to. But you don't have to.
Definitely a top 3. I would say in my age frame, it's the best album that has ever come out.
That's fair.
Since I've been an adult. That's the best R&B album that's come out since I've been an adult. Like, it's not even close. It's not even like Ready is, oh my God, that shit is amazing, man.
It has some great moments. So.
That shit was so good, man. So man, Troy, hold on. That shit is
I appreciate that.
That album is so special. So, okay, so let me ask you this. You had pretty much full control already.
Yes.
You know what I mean? You had got to the point where it's like, okay, they gonna let me do my thing.
No, they ain't let me do nothing. We did what we wanted to do.
Yeah.
And when I say that respectfully because it was his third album, and their attitude was, hey, listen, if this doesn't work.
Yeah.
So with that, we did Anticipation.
Yeah.
R&B mixtape that wasn't people weren't doing back then. Like,
I remember it.
All the rappers were doing it, but the R&B people weren't doing it. So we did that off the record. Like we made the CDs and we put them in the sneaker stores.
Yeah, I remember.
They couldn't touch that, but they did not like it. Mike Caren, none of them. They did not appreciate that.
But it's dope that you had to take matters into your own hands in order to get that breakthrough.
Yes.
And a lot, man. I've had a few JVs at this point, and a lot of times, man, the only person that ever let me do what I wanted was Joey IE. Okay. So shout out to him. But every other relationship I ever had, man, it was like having handcuffs on.
I know,
which is why I'm such pro independent now. Like why I won't sign my artist to a label now, because like you're not putting them handcuffs on me again.
Yeah.
But Joey IE, shout out to him. Like he really let me do what I wanted with K-Camp. You know what I mean? But they handcuff you, and so you had to like maneuver your way out of that and say, I'm gonna find a way to get this guy where I need to get him on my own. I ain't gonna tell the label nothing. I'm gonna go out here, I'm gonna press these CDs up, and that's what y'all did.
That's what we
did.
And
y'all were game changing because y'all were the first.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
Okay. All right. So was Ready done before Anticipation?
No, Anticipation was songs that were supposed to be for the album that we realized, these songs have a sound.
Yeah.
This is a sound. Like, let's put this out.
Okay.
You know what I mean? That's this. And we just, that was that dark, moody sound that we had songs just sitting there that all had that vibe. And we just put a project together with it.
And so then did y'all go back in after that and do Ready?
No, we were still working.
The whole time?
The whole time. We just took these songs over here and said, let's
get it out there. Yeah. And brilliant move. And that's how we got Trey Songz. That's how we got Ready. That was a brilliant move, man. That was amazing. Okay, so because we still are only halfway into your career. We still have a whole nother half to go. Okay, so your artist is huge. Like what are your next steps? You know what I mean?
Let's go back.
Okay, go ahead.
No, let's go back, because what a big factor in making Ready.
Yeah,
a big thing during Ready, I was going through my divorce.
Wow.
So you talk about the worst part of my life.
Wow.
Is having to make this album while I'm going through a divorce because I have this kid's career in my hand. I lived in Texas at the time. And so I was working in Atlanta. I was working out here on the album. But dude, being a father, my son was like 8 and just, you know, I never had a dad. Okay. So I envisioned myself being like
that
dad that I never had.
Yeah.
And so, but at the same time, I had to be here making that album. Yeah. So going through that divorce while working on this Ready album, it was not good.
Yeah. So you were in a quite a dark space.
Very dark.
So can I ask you, did you put any of that into the music?
Yeah. So here's it. Spiritually speaking, so I'm at this point going through this divorce that was not my divorce. I didn't feel like it was there was a reason to divorce. We needed counseling. So I was angry, and I was also angry at God. Yeah, in my mind, for allowing her to do this. So on one half, it's like I can't do anything about this, but I can do something about this. Yeah. So God is saying, focus on what you can do. I'll take care of this. Yeah. And it was just every night, because at that point I was staying at Delonte's house in his basement. And I'm like, I have a beautiful home in Texas. Why am I on this basement floor? Yeah. You know what I mean? Like as if I don't have. Right. But at the same time, so remember Charles? Yeah. So 4.5 years I was gone. I had moved on. And 4.5 years later, the IRS hits me with.
Not the money too.
Hit me with stuff that happened while I was gone. Yeah. And they hit me hard.
Because the business was still operational.
Because when I left, I didn't take my names off the business. Yeah. So I was still linked name-wise. Right. So whatever he was doing.
Right. Came back to hunt both of y'all.
To haunt me. Because he wasn't responding to them. So they saw me still working, making money and being sick. They're like, yo, we're getting this. And if you want that, you got to get him. Yeah. So it left me with, whoa, during the making. No,
so
it was
divorce,
bad.
The money.
Yeah, no. I was down literally to nothing while I was making Ready.
Yeah.